liberty, and justice for all.
All right, y'all may be seated. All right, do we have anyone introducing you, or are you introducing yourself?
Yeah, there might be a few of them up there. She's got her entourage. She's got her entourage.
Excellent.
Now.
Sure. There's no time like the present. All right. So no stranger to us. We have Kyle Taylor coming to bring us a greeting from the city. Mayor Pro Tem.
No, that's Mayor Pro Tem right there.
Oh. So you got demoted to councilman?
I got demoted to council. Thank you.
Yes, well.
Ow.
We appreciate all doing that.
I'm here.
So
Whenever you're ready.
sure.
No.
Back on. Check,
This is why your city runs so efficiently.
check.
Maura.
Yes, sir.
Pleasure. I always say something that this is one time I'm not calling a board in front of the city council. Because whenever she looks at me, she knows I'm going to moderate and say, come tell us how it is. But my compatriot here, Kyle, as you know, is the liaison of the city council, reporting to the ICBB and all the activities that we're dealing with, especially what I consider the one real business that we run in the city. And so we have to have somebody and people around her that really make it work, and she does. The other part is, as your mayor pro tem, gives me a great deal of honor to present my colleague, who is our liaison, and he'll take it from here. I want to say thank you, Maura, as always. Here's my friend Kyle. Thank you.
Let's give this on record. That's the shortest hour ever talked. All right, man. It's always a pleasure to work with Alan. He's been a great mentor to me, and we've had some really good conversations to come with some stuff for y'all's residents and Irving. But we all know Maura Gast, what she does for the city with the ICBB and her team. And so I just want to talk. There's a paragraph, I got a bio, there's a paragraph, and I want to read just this little paragraph of the things that she's been asked to do this first year. Because of the reputation, how lucky we are to have Maura in the city doing what she does. Maura is a former chair of Destination International and just finished chairing its Destination Marketing Accredited Program. She recently completed a 3-year term as the first chair of the Certified Destination Management Executive Program Board and championed and led the debut of the program's first elective in economic development. She has served on the Destination Next Task Force and is the Destination Next Facilitator. She has earned a light designation, a fellowship, certified destination management executive. And it's Bob Bourgeois, who serves on the ICBB board, and Al and I get the president to go to a lot of these things and travel outside the city and represent the city. Everywhere we go, everybody tells us how lucky we are to have Maura.
Yeah.
She's a great mentor to a lot of us where we can go and ask questions, get really sage advice. The other thing a lot of people don't know is because of what her and her team does at the convention center, we save, and they save you roughly anywhere from $700 to $800 a year in taxes. So there's more to that that comes. So Maura, my friend and mentor, Maura Gast. Woo!
All right, thank you guys. It's always good to be with you all, and especially right now. I'm going to start with a quick video for those of you who were at our 50th anniversary celebration last week. You probably saw this but didn't get to hear it because you guys were having a family reunion and it was awesome. So I'm going to let Jordan let this little video run and we'll see that and then we'll take it from there. And while he's doing that, some of you noticed that I am once again with a brace on my leg. I have sprained my ankle, the same ankle for the 3rd time. This time was very exciting. I was walking across the parking lot in broad daylight at a church, watching for traffic, not watching the curb under my feet. So once again, very, very dramatic, very, very exciting. And I know you count on me for those moments of grace.
You weren't racing to save a child or something?
I was not racing to save a child. The last time I slipped in a hotel lobby, the time before that, I fell off a stair singular.
Singular.
One stair, last stair,
Music and meetings,
It's a great town, a great place.
stars and sports,
It's so beautiful.
fun and flavors. They are all part of today's vibrant visitor industry in Irving, Texas. But it was not always like this.
Back then, when we were growing up in town, it wasn't that Irving was a destination.
For a period of time, there was always worry. Was Irving going to be the place you went through instead of went to?
When I think back 50 years, Irving was going through quite a transition from a focus on Irving Boulevard to a focus on 183.
Bob Power and the team brought the Cowboys over from Dallas and built Texas Stadium. So really for the first time, there were a lot of reasons for people outside of Irving to come into Irving.
In '72, I happened to be mayor that year, and it was just booming everywhere.
I think coming in with DFW Airport and then people being smart enough to realize that with the airport here in our location to the airport, that we needed a tool.
The visionary leadership at that time understood that the travel industry, the hotel industry, the hospitality industry would be significant in our community.
A new hotel is beginning construction at the corner of Highway 114 and Esters Road, while offering a single rate of $39.75 with free breakfast, cocktails, and local phone calls.
The hotel business is getting a boost here in Irving. It's currently building the AmeriSuites Hotel. And why Irving? Well, the company officials say high growth, low unemployment, and there's no better place than near the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
I think we were still kind of a little bit making it up as we went along. We were about booking groups and about handing out visitor guides.
The Mandalay Four Seasons Hotel, which opens Sunday, rises 27 stories high.
We have designed a hotel for conference business as well as the individual traveler.
Omni was the original Four Seasons, so it was built, early 80s as the first full-service property in the Las Colinas specific area.
One of the early plans for a convention center would have put a facility near the stadium that included in the plan a Howard Johnson's, a Montessori school, a battered women's shelter, and a whole lot of others. So very, very multi-purpose.
Irving's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Chamber of Commerce, and Arts Board all recently moved into their new offices.
We were all together, rolled up in one neat little package.
It took us 12 years to get the convention center open, but over that time, we evolved to saying, do we want to let things happen to us, or do we want to have a part in shaping the visitor experience with product, not just with promotion?
On a busy year, there's over 300 events that happen here. This convention center facility, which is one of the crown jewels in their accomplishments over the years, it brings in billions of economic impact each year to our city.
We've created a wonderful destination here with the convention center, and then Irving Music Factory and Water Street. I mean, those are things that bring people to town.
So we built this and they came, but they're coming to the Westin, and they're coming to the Texican, and they're coming to the Music Factory, but they're also coming everywhere around the city. We've been able to build up travel and experiences throughout Irving.
The people that we have
in these positions at the ICVB are people that have stood the test of time. They've seen the good times, they've seen the bad times, they've worked through those challenges.
The Cowboys leaving was traumatic for all of us, but it opened a door for something else to happen, and that's what we have to keep believing.
To the city of Irving, the Four Seasons, thank you all for 35 amazing years.
I am about to cry. This is sad.
During COVID and the restaurants were having challenges, you know, the Convention Visitor Bureau were the first ones to step up and say, how can we help them?
They're very, very supportive, especially during the pandemic. You couldn't have better people to work with and helped us be resilient and prosper the best we could, and now we're bouncing back.
These last several things, you just go, okay, we got it. It's gonna be bumpy, but we'll figure it out like we have every other time.
I think that most citizens of Irving are not aware of the influence that the ICVB has on the growth and the improvement or enhancement of everything in Irving.
Oh yeah, it's a huge benefit for us to have what we have. We have over 600 restaurants in the city because of the traveler is here every day looking for something. That's a benefit.
The museums are funded through an allocation of hotel occupancy tax, just like the Arts Center.
We don't have the vibrant arts community we have in Irving without the strength of hotel occupancy. Got it. Oh, there we go. Sounds good. Okay, so here's what I'll do. There was a couple more minutes. I can't remember what we said, but just remember, we left it off at hotel taxes pay for a lot of stuff in the city. So the Arts Center in Irving is funded through hotel occupancy taxes. All of the city's museums are funded through hotel occupancy taxes. Certainly our operations at the Convention Visitor Bureau, as well as the Convention Center, operate on that base of hotel occupancy taxes. So they made a lot of things possible for the city. And then visitors make a lot of other things possible. So what I will do is I will get a link to this video and I'll send it out with an email next week, so you can watch it during Thanksgiving when you're, sitting in a turkey coma and looking at something else to do. So it was 1972 when we were started, when the city said, hey, it's time. And it was because a lot of hotels had started to open up along 183 because DFW Airport was opening. But here's what else was happening in 1972. Apollo 17 had just returned home. The Dow Jones moved above 1,000 for the first time in its history. On Broadway, you could go see Grease. A great writer that many of us in this area know, Dan Jenkins, his book Semi-Tough was on the bestseller list, as well was a little bitty paperback book about a seagull named Jonathan. Cabaret and the Poseidon Adventure were at the movies. The big stars in the movies were Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, John Wayne, Marlon Brando, Steve McQueen, Barbra Streisand, and Goldie Hawn. On television, on the very small screens that we may have been lucky to have in our own homes at the time, it was the first Bob Newhart show, MASH, Maude, The Waltons, in the streets of San Francisco. And prior to us being created, there was a little operation in the chamber that produced brochures and handed them out. And it became apparent that there was going to be more in Irving than just some brochures, and the city's leaders decided it was time to move directly into tourism. And after looking around the rest of the state to see what to do, they realized that convention and visitor bureaus were the thing you needed to create, and we all looked individually kind of structured the way our various communities have. So that was how the city moved forward. They created what was first known as the Tourist and Convention Bureau. You had not only the hotels and DFW Airport coming up out of the ground, but very close by, really on just on the other side of 183 down at 30, you had Six Flags. You had Lion Country Safari, for those of you who grew up here, remember Seven Seas, all those other parks. So a lot of things were happening along 183 in Irving. So on November 9th, as you heard from a member of this club and former Mayor Dan Matkin, we were signed into existence, and then that following January, the city put in place a 3% local hotel occupancy tax to fund our operations. One of the very first investments we made ultimately became the Art Center. It was the front half of the Art Center. We paid for that with cash. And our operation, the arts operation, and the chamber all moved into that building. Eventually the theaters got added, and eventually we kind of grew out of the building we built. And so for several years we were nomads, and we kind of wandered around office buildings in the area until we moved into the convention center in like December 2010. Many of you in this room have served on our board over the years. Just ask those of you who have to please wave, acknowledge. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. This is specifically for your purpose. Thank you. It's important because the staff kind of comes and goes, and we're the hired guns, and we're always going to be the ones that say everything's great, wonderful, and peachy. But ultimately, we've survived, and they've been able to do the things we have because of visionary city councils and because of visionary and stubborn and persistent board leaders who have been willing to get out in front and champion for things the city needed. We made a decision many years ago that we didn't want to be the thermometer in the room. We wanted to be the thermostat. We wanted to set the temperature instead of just gauge it and really guide our way to a future of our own. So we've been very, very blessed with that. I thought when we did this 45th anniversary 5 years ago, I thought I was actually the 4th executive director. It turned out I was the 5th. Dr. Bettis was in the room that day. He said, no, there was 2 people before there was Mike, and then there was Jim, and then there was you. Okay, so really there were 5 of us. I only know Mike forward. And we have the benefit of a really long tenured staff. I've been with the organization 31 and a half years. Mary Ann Loudon, who's our Director of Accounting and Budget, has been with the city 35 years. Our VP of Finance and Admin, Susan Rose, has only been with us about 3 years, but she's been with the city about 30 as well. Roy Potasic, who's our VP of Sales, who's spoken to you guys before, has been with us, I think it's 27, as has Diana Pfaff, who's our VP of Marketing and Communications. So got a really long tenured staff, which is a huge blessing. I've been very blessed to get involved in a lot of organizations for our association on the national and international front, and that's been really helpful because our team has been together in Irving for so long. We kind of only know our way of doing things, and so it's been really helpful over the years for me to be sitting in rooms with my peers from all around the world and understand that most of us have the same problems. We have a different set of zeros we try to solve the problems with, but to learn from people and how they do it, whether it's Rockford, Illinois, or where is she from? St. John Island, Canada, or our poor friends in Puerto Rico. Good Lord, my counterpart in Puerto Rico left Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, about 4 years ago, and has been through 3 hurricanes and a very dramatic, very different struggling island for a lot of reasons. So there's some of us everywhere. We all have many of the same challenges and same opportunities, but we're a very collegial group, and we're very good at sharing with each other, kind of in massive group therapy sessions during our conventions about, don't do this because this is what happened, or kind of sharing with each other to make sure that we don't fall into the same pit holes and try to guide each other out of that. I'm very excited about the fact that Dallas voters approved that massive new Dallas Convention Center complex in the elections last week, the week before, as well as what's going to happen at Fair Park. The Dallas Convention Center was always in the wrong place, and it has been allowed to not be fixed for decades. There was hundreds of millions of dollars of deferred maintenance on that building. And every year, you just think about your own house, your own car. If you don't fix stuff that needs fixing, you can only get away with Band-Aids for so long before it's gonna cost a lot. And that's basically what's happened over time. Because that's what's happened over time, it colors people's image of their experience coming to meetings and conventions in Dallas. We're not gonna be competing with a big old mega monstrous new Dallas Convention Center. We're in a totally different competitive set than they are. But we need people to feel good about coming to meetings in Dallas so that they will feel good about coming to meetings in Irving. That's really, really important to us. And when it's generally known and understood, this was the description in the newspaper, that there were diapers in the ceiling to catch water whenever it rained throughout that convention center. That's not a good thing, right? So one of the things you should know is we don't defer any maintenance at the Irving Convention Center. We have a budget that typically costs about $800,000 a year to maintain, keep up with that building. We are working on rebuilding our capital improvement fund so that we keep at least $3 million in there. So every time we churn through a year, we gotta replace funds in there. But it's very, very important. And it's the first thing, we do two things when we set out to build our budget every year. One is to put aside the operating subsidy that the building needs, and every single convention center everywhere loses money. It's not built to make money for itself, it's built to make money for everybody around it. So we put aside that money that it needs to get to operating in the black. That's piece number one. Piece number two is what has to be fixed in this next year, or what's due to be replaced in this next year. That's piece number two. And then with what's left is what we put together the rest of our programming budget with. So we are going to make sure that we take care of this asset for the city for a very long time. The project costs about $131 million to build. We want to make sure, and it's certainly the Dallas one is going to be $1.5 gazillion. I don't know how many stores, it doesn't really matter. We want to make sure that that holds up over time. The building has been open. We opened in January of 2011. In a normal year, we're hosting 250 events a year, a couple 100,000 people a year. I feel confident that anytime you walk into that building, you see a building that's well kept, well maintained, and that's whether you come in through the front doors or the back doors. I revel in taking people out to the loading dock because it doesn't matter. It's always clean and well kept, even if we're in the middle of an event, for instance. I revel taking people into our kitchen, whether we're in the middle of getting ready for an event or we are finishing up an event, because it's well kept and well maintained. We have a lot of contractors that work in the building. The company that manages the building day to day is a private company called ASM Global. But they treat that building, and every employee they have and all of their subs that they have treat that building as if it's their own. And you can see that in how well cared for and well maintained it is. If you walk down the hallways to our offices right now, you're going to see 4 different shades of some kind of grayish blue that we keep looking at in different light, because we need to change the color of some walls and we replace the carpets, and we're just trying to make sure that whichever shade we end up with isn't the wrong one, because it's a lot of big walls to paint. So we're trying to, let's look at it when it's cloudy outside. Let's look at it when it's sunny outside. What does it look like when we have lights on it? So in case you've noticed that, that's why there are all those random shades of blue at home. But we have 2 operations. We have the Convention Visitors Bureau, which is looking everywhere at all the time to bring groups for all sorts of reasons to Irving, to stay in hotels, to generate spending. And then we have the Convention Center, which operates the building itself and then is in charge of what we call short-term sales. So they book everything within a year in the building. Our team is charged with finding stuff outside of 12 months so that we're focused on hotel rooms. We have a lot of groups that, weddings is one of those that we never thought we'd be in the wedding business, but we have groups that want to do weddings there, but they want to, get the date on the books 2 years out. And without a minimum of 400 sleeping rooms a night contracted, or a total of 1,200 rooms, we're not going to give up those premium dates, because we need to save them for groups that are going to generate hotel tax in order to pay for the. So the last couple of years have been sort of crappy, but with all of that, with COVID, the year we just completed for the convention center was our best financial performance ever. Which is, We budgeted for the building, this is always, like I said earlier, buildings lose money, that's why the private sector doesn't build them, you build it to make money for everybody around you. So we budget every year for the building to lose $1.395 million. That's the difference between operating the red and operating the black, that's the number we budget every year. However, whatever we do better than that returns to the building's capital fund. So the best year we had prior to this was 2018-19, and I think we returned about 400,000 and change. So that's good, that helps us replenish that capital fund that we're spending at $800 grand a year. This year we returned $601,000. All the overhead costs that have increased. So you guys know what it's like at the grocery store right now. Well, if you're buying chicken for 800 people instead of for 4 people in your house, that cost escalation is crazy, right? So we're dealing with all those same things, just on a very different scale. The hospitality industry is way behind the rest of the private sector in getting people back into jobs. Costs are almost double what they used to be for service personnel. So we got all, that's a lot of cost, but it's very hard to pass on a lot of those costs directly to customers who are having some of the same challenges in their own organizations, in their own companies. But we've been able to, through a different mix of events, because a lot of corporate meetings are not still happening, or they get on the books and they get canceled before they ever get to happen. And so we've had to find other events that have been financially beneficial for the building and that have helped certainly somewhat with hotel rooms. And that has certainly helped restaurants and other businesses in the community. But we did, I think, pre-pandemic, maybe 3 sporting events in a year, and over the course of the last year, we did 13. A number of those were cornhole. Some of you have heard me talk about cornhole before. That entire exhibit hall, which is 50,000 square feet, filled with hundreds of cornhole sets of boards. Also up on the big ballroom, which is another 20,000 square feet, more cornhole boards up there. In order to book the Texas Cornhole League, we had to promise that one of the selections on the bar would be a beer for $4. We could price anything else however we wanted, but there needed to be a $4 beer in the mix. We needed to have fireball shots, fireball orange shots, and Jägermeister.
Of course you have.
And Red Bull. We needed to open the bars starting at 8:30 in the morning and close them at midnight. And we needed probably 4 times the bars we would have typically done for a group of 800.
What do we sign up?
Yes, that's the beauty. But thank God for those things because it's very good on the revenue. Almost all of the Convention and Visitor Bureau staff now has its bartending license from the state of Texas, so that when these things come up, we're not having to bring in extra personnel that we're having to pay for. We're just using ourselves and we're already on the clock no matter what. So we've gotten very good at doing some of those things. We've gotten very good at figuring out how to do things more efficiently. And it's totally teamwork, mixed teamwork, and it wouldn't happen without the group of humans and individuals that are there, because they're a very, very special group of people. We did just get, the building just received its GVAC certification, so that is from the Global Biorisk Advisory Council through the International Sanitary Supply Association. So now the designation for the building that it is operated with the best safety and cleaning parameters and all that good kind of stuff. But it ended up being almost a 2-year process to get it done, to make sure that we are prepared for whatever will be next. And we still continue to do a lot of those precautions and safe things that we put in place throughout the pandemic, which is clearly not over, to make sure that we stay safe. We want our guests to be safe, but we also want our staff to be safe, their families. So we want to make sure that they're well kept and they're well protected too. No idea where I am on time. I left the house about wash today. So tell me where we are. We can roll in questions.
12 minutes. Yeah.
We have 12 minutes to go, or I've gone 12 minutes longer than I was supposed to. That's a good time for questions. Let's go questions. I can make them up. We can sing some Thanksgiving songs.
Maura, what is the most challenging group that has come in for both you and the convention center people?
is a really good question,
The
Patty.
teens, the teen things?
Most challenging group that has come in, so probably for different reasons. So the Comic-Con type groups, anime type groups are challenging because there's so many people. They are easily 10,000 to 15,000 people. They are mostly in very elaborate costumes, trying to move around that many people on elevators, on escalators, stuff. Eating under their masks, doing all sorts of things, but they're a very easygoing group. Like they're not, they're usually not, that's a group that seldom has any drinking going on, so they're very well behaved. It's a very inclusive group. People, you don't have to be in costume to go, people feel very welcome, and people that are in costume, for the most part, know that people want to come up to them, see them, and take their picture. So they're really friendly. It's a wonderful group. They're very, very inclusive, but it's just big with a whole lot of moving spaces. They are in every single nook and cranny of the building, inside and outside. We typically don't let any parking happen on the first floor of the parking garage because we need that for lines to queue up to get in. The North Texas Teen Book Festival is not that much of a challenge. It's just a very different mix of people. And I've said this before, the very first one that ever happened, your Irving Public Library people, for people who don't plan events for a living, do a brilliant job planning a monster scale event with 7,000 teenagers who show up and read books, not on anything electronic. They are there to get books, like with paper and hardbacks, and get them autographed and sit on the floor with each other reading together. It's a wonderful thing. Also, it's their parents that are a little bit of an adventure who don't understand why Susie is so far back in the line when they bought the extra whatever pass. The parents are more the issue in there, but it's a beautifully done event. With the state of corporations being what they are, sometimes we'll be dealing with one person throughout the planning process. And then the day of the event is when the boss comes in and first sees how everything's been laid out and it's not what he or she had in mind. And then there's a mad scramble to, move the stage to the other side of the room or whatever. Groups that are more than 1,000 people, the fire marshal reviews their floor plans, and that's a very important part of the process, and you don't get to open up if the fire marshal says no. We've had some groups think they know better than what the fire marshal says, and don't listen to our staff when we say you can't block that exit. So when the fire marshal comes in to do the inspection before they're scheduled to open, they don't get to open until everything's done that we ask them to do. Those are probably more the things than anything else. We've done some large banquets. We've done on that exhibit hall floor about 3,000 people for a fancy banquet for the Catholic Diocese of Dallas. We've done some graduations with 5,000 people packed into that same space. But yeah, and everything is different. We've got the first weekend, this weekend we have USA Judo, which is the Olympic governing body for the sport of judo. They've been with us several times. This is probably their 15th at least event with us over the years. So we'll have lots of little judo kids, and they're very fun to watch. But they'll be downstairs, and then upstairs in the big ballroom will be the Preserve Halloween Festival, which is a group of people who want to make sure Halloween lives forever. And they will be celebrating Halloween on the top floor. The first weekend of December, on Saturday, on one day, we have a show called something like Faded, Worn and Dirty, which is a sneaker collector expo. And on the next day, we have a different sneaker collector expo called the Sneaker Exit. I know, there's a whole other world out there, right? It is fascinating what people will do with their time and money, because sneakers collecting is apparently really big deal. We've had a tattoo festival. That was very colorful. We've had hemp growers. We have occasional groups that I have to call the police chief and say, hey, this is coming. Can we do this? And we can't say no. So we're a publicly owned building, so we don't have the right if we don't agree with the nature of a gathering. All we can do is book the space, require additional security if we think it's a group that should require additional security. But We do that, we get history from other places, we ask the chief in those cases this event was just held in Plano, you might wanna call your counterpart there and see if there's any condition now. We've had flat track roller derby in there, which is a lot of fun. Wrestling, taekwondo, judo, things with mats and gymnastics. It's been fun.
Other than the elephant that wouldn't fit in the elevator, have you had bizarre requests?
So the city just asked, other than the elephant, which wouldn't fit in the elevator, which is true. So we had to make a decision after the bonds were sold, but we had to do some cost savings things before we really got too deep into construction. With our service elevators, we could either have one really big one or two really small ones. We decided to go with two really small ones because invariably one is going to be out of service, so at least you would have a backup. When we made that decision, it then meant the elephant cannot fit into the elevator in order to get the elephant up to the 4th floor where the ballroom is for a wedding. That was for real, so we have, that is an official lost business reason in our database. Lost business, elephant would not fit.
Did you ever have a pinball?
We have not had pinball at the convention center, but we have had it in some of the hotels. We've had pinball competitions in some of the hotels. And they're equally important to us.
Well, they bring them all.
Yeah, they bring lots of people, yeah, absolutely. We've done some esports kinds of things, those people are a lot of fun, except that they tend to not sleep, not eat, and not shower. But other than that, they're well behaved, they're fun. They're not gonna eat out in the restaurants, they're gonna put as many people as they can in a hotel room, because they don't expect to stay in it.
Yeah, so Maura, pre-pandemic, you obviously had a certain type of marketing approach. So now where we are with the pandemic, what is the marketing approach for ICVB?
So we still stick with some of the things that we know work. So Irving being in the middle of Dallas-Fort Worth, Irving being very accessible, whether it's by car or by airplane, is very important to our messaging. We have a wide range of properties, so from very budget-minded properties up to the Four Seasons, soon to be the Ritz-Carlton. We have something kind of for everybody in those price ranges. We mostly, to groups who are meeting organizers, we know where to find them. They are at the Meeting Professionals International Convention, the Professional Convention Management Association, the Religious Conference Managers Association. So we know where to find those groups. There are sports groups like that as well. We do a lot of backyard, with the corporations that are here in Dallas-Fort Worth. There's a lot of technology that now exists in our space, whereas 10 years ago, a meeting planner would have to know somebody to send out a lead opportunity. Today, there's a system called Cvent that lets them simultaneously source hundreds, if not thousands, of hotels and destinations all at the same time. What we try to do as much with our marketing is make sure people are aware of the name and where it is, because that's our biggest battle. Lately, we have a battle with people's perceptions of Texas. We have to manage perceptions of Texas, then we have to educate about Dallas-Fort Worth, and then if we can get you to buy into those two things, then we can get you into it. It makes me crazy when people locally use the phrase North Texas, because if you do not know anything about the state of Texas other than the map, and you know what that map looks like, where you think North Texas is Panhandle, because it is the northernmost part of the state. So when we have the North Texas Super Bowl, it made those kinds of things, it's crazy maybe, because it doesn't tell people automatically that that's the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But so we've done that. We did a lot of things, some things we had to do because we were using federal funds these last couple of years, federal relief funds. There were some certain requirements in how we had to message with the CARES Act. We had to message about safe meetings, so we had to talk about safety protocols. Now the ARPA funds are all about recovery, so we've got a lot more flexibility, but we ended up stretching ourselves through a lot of digital initiatives that we had only dabbled in before, and they were the things we could most quickly get out in the market to start rebuilding the market, and found great success with them. So they're part of our plan now.
Okay, thank you. So, and kudos to the city council.
Yes.
For the ARPA money.
Oh God, yes, thank you, yes. Thank you. Yeah, we cashed in all of our savings the past couple of years. We needed to cash in all of our reserves, the buildings reserve, our operating reserves, our computer replacement fund. The only source of revenue in the city that was really hit hard by everything was hotel taxes. And so we were able to get a considerable portion of the resources that were allocated to the city for recovery because we were hit the hardest. But they come with strings. There's only certain ways you can spend them. So we're trying to use those dollars the best we can, and then use our hotel tax dollars to put monies back into reserves, because we can't use federal funds to put money into reserve. We have to use that money to do programming that will help the industry recover. So thank you for that, Bob.
Thank you, Maura. And we are blessed to have you as part of our club and all the help you do, not only for our city, but also for this club. So thank you very much. We have a few announcements. I'm going to allow Cindy Porter, past president of the Sunrise Rotary Club, to give us a quick announcement.
Okay. I just want to thank y'all. I mean, I gave you 1 week notice. Hey, we're doing this next week, want to do it? And you showed up. So I really appreciate our event was wonderful. We were touched by the cold and the construction, but you know what? Everyone that showed up and everything that happened was a great blessed day. So I also have a quick question. Well, I'll present this question. I have my giving y'all a certificate of appreciation, and it says Las Colinas Rotary Club Certificate of Appreciation, United Recruits, for your outstanding support of our November 12th, 2022 United Recruits Veterans Day celebration. In gratitude, we award you for your generosity and your patriotism. So this is for y'all, for what y'all do. Question. I'm not sure if it's one club or this club. It's one of the. I do have gun tickets. We're still selling the gun until Pearl Harbor Day. But somebody filled out gun tickets, what, 5 of them? You wrote Mike. That's it. No last name, no phone number.
Just Mike.
Is there a Mike in this room that filled out just Mike? Because there's a lot of people that say, you know what, that's my middle name. Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to find Mike, so it's got to be more.
Oh, that's great. If you don't have a mic, I'll be the mic man. Because I'm always good with the mic. You're welcome. That was free. Hey, I do have an important announcement. This Saturday, we are doing an appreciation celebration for all those that have helped with flags in the various ways. We are honoring and lifting up our scouts, but there are so many more others that have participated and helped, especially here in this club. So if you're available this Saturday, 4 o'clock, right? 4:30, but if you come at 4, you can help set up chairs. And we won't be mad about that. But 4:30 at Woodhaven Presbyterian Church, just 3 blocks south from here. Please come. There'll be pizza. It'll be a good time. We'd love to have you up there. I won't be there, but I'll be there in spirit. So please consider that. Laz, do you have an announcement for us? Come on.
Just a quick one. Well, Laz,
yes, so the next thing that we have coming is Thanksgiving. And I know that most of you guys are gonna be probably just waiting for the turkey to be ready. So that's you. Come out to the Music Factory. We had the Irving Turkey Trot's 3rd year anniversary, which Maura, Kyle, pretty much everybody here in town has also had a huge part on making it happen. We actually hosted the Irving Turkey Trot, the very first one, during COVID, whenever you couldn't have over 10 people, but working together, we got an extension to have up to 600 people in 2020 to run the Irving Turkey Trot the first year. And again, it was because of this great community that we have. In addition to other things that Maura does outside of here, it is so easy to work for her team, for local people as well. So that's something that's going to touch into, but Mr. Irving does go out so locally as well with the community. So with that said, the Irving Turkey Trot is Thursday, Thanksgiving morning at Together Music Factory. Go to Earth Marathon to find out. We have about 1,400 people registered for this event this year. And we have actually built a market of about 40 vendors that sell arts and craft, handmade type artisan stuff on Wednesday, the day before. So you can come and shop while you pick up your package from 1 to 8 p.m. on Texas Lottery Plaza. And then the next morning, the race starts at 9, so you can sleep in, kind of run at 9, and you'll be done by 11:30, so you can go home and eat turkey. So that's what we have on Thanksgiving. And again, this is now a Irving tradition compared to Dallas turkey trot tradition that we're building together. So I'll see you guys later.
You'll be out of town. There is a virtual option. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So you can still run Thanksgiving morning and be part of the turkey trot. So throw that out there also. I'm going to invite us to go ahead and stand so we can do the four-way test. If you have not signed up to ring the bell with Salvation Army, please talk to Ed McCarty, who's going to lead us in our four-way test, or you can also speak with Lieutenant Cody Jones.
Okay, the four-way test is the things we say into first.
Is it the truth?
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? God bless you all. Have a